Here we go. We're going to go to our last habit now. And this one is kind of not a catch-all, but it encompasses a lot. And I think that's just because of the nature of just the uncertainty perhaps of media and technology and the changing nature of it, and also the changing nature of our children and our families and how our needs change and things like that. So our sixth habit is learn along the way. And this is really about helping parents specifically develop sort of a growth mindset, develop a sense of confidence and positivity as they move through what's coming next for their children. And, it does come back to the idea of boundaries and reassessing the boundaries and the rules and things that we have around media and technology to make sure that we're, again, just supporting the well-being of our family. What are some of those other behavioral loops that families might fall into related to media and technology or otherwise?
I think that probably one of the most pervasive behavioral loops that parents find themselves in it is very prevalent in the use of media, but it honestly happens kind of in a very generalized way on a day-to-day basis for parents is something called the coercive cycle, right? Where you tell your child to do something or you tell them to be done with something, for instance, like their tablet, let's say, and your child responds aversively. And you have a real life. And so you kind of back off for a couple minutes because you're trying to also do something else at the same time, right? And the child's response gets reinforced in some way because you backed off for a couple minutes, right? And then because you still need your child to do that thing, you come back and you increase your volume or you increase your tone or you threaten that if they don't get off the tablet that they won't have the tablet again for a couple days or something like that, and your child responds, and then that response gets reinforced because that kind of encourages parents to think my kid only listens when I increase my volume or threaten. And it kind of encourages a kid to think, oh, mom only means business when she threatens or raises her voice or gets close to me in proximity. So there can be a little bit, right, that can happen not just with technology, but with it's time to brush your teeth or get your shoes on or whatever it is. But it's very, very prevalent in the use of being done with technology in some way, shape, or form.
So you have been to my house? Have you been to my Yeah, that sounds very familiar. So how do we undo some of those loops? How do we get out of that?
It's challenging, certainly for sure, right? I tell parents all the time it's really difficult, and also we have to work on saying what we mean and meaning what we say, which means that I'm not going to give a direction until I'm ready, right? So if I want a kid to put their shoes on, I'm going to be careful that I don't say, "Hey, Tom, get your shoes. Tommy, get your shoes. Hey, we're going to leave in a little bit. I need you to get those shoes. Bud, you got to get those shoes on. Where are your shoes?" Right? Like, I'm not going to try to give that command 11, 12, maybe 20, 30 times before I'm actually ready. So I'm going to wait until my other kid's in the stroller, or I'm done on the phone, or I'm done doing this thing so that I can say, it's time to get your shoes on. Wait 5 to 10 seconds and say, "Hey, here are these shoes. Let's get a moving here, buddy," and like start the process of getting these shoes on if we need to. Um, so I know it's not always easy and it's not our first go-to because we want kids to just listen and we want them to just kind of engage in the direction that we gave them. Um, and when you know that that's unlikely to happen, or you know that you're often kind of caught in this loop, you do need to decrease the number of times you give the demand and increase your follow through, right? You also have to, again, make a big deal out of it, give a lot of labeled praise for first time listening. So if they do get the shoes on right away, even though it's an expected behavior, you have to say, "Great job getting your shoes. I love those listening ears. Thank you so much for helping mom so quickly. I'm so proud of you for being such a good listener," right? You don't have to say all of those things at the same time, but those are examples, right? We want to make sure that the intensity with which you engage your child when they don't listen competes, right, in some way with the intensity that the attention they're going to get when they do listen and follow directions quickly. They're seeking that attention, they're seeking that enthusiasm from you in some way. So you got to make sure that they get it. And that requires parents to sometimes decide, is this a front burner demand? Is this a back burner demand? Like, how important is it? How willing am I to go to battle around it? You know, how much energy do I have left in the tank? Am I just going to get the shoes myself and bring them over? You know, that type of
Mhm.
thing, which again, I know is not always easy. And it doesn't necessarily need to happen forever. But when you're caught in one of those loops, the best way to get out of it is to really be much more intentional about the directions you're giving and the follow through that you're providing.
Parents are We're already doing so much. There's obviously already a lot for us to learn and improve on. Um, how do you coach parents in that and how to stay in the game maybe for their, for themselves? Like we talk about a growth mindset. Can you describe, what a growth mindset is and what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, a growth mindset is, people who believe their basic abilities can be developed with hard work and dedication, folks that believe their success is based on time and effort and persistence. It's people who appreciate the journey just as much as they appreciate the destination, right? They don't see failure as a success. They feel like failure is an opportunity to grow, and an opportunity to learn, right? And so a growth mindset, particularly for adults, can be really challenging. A lot of adults really need some reprogramming as it relates to thinking about and being mindful of, I didn't do the best today. I did my best today. Or,
Mhm.
really paying attention to your personal best versus comparing yourself to other parents or other kids or other situations, right? So, um, I really do have to help parents often be kind to themselves and to kind of work against some of the negative thoughts that they might have when their child doesn't listen. That, I tell parents all the time, young kids only listen to their parents directions about 70 to 75% of the time, right? And that's, so we shouldn't be shooting for 100, right? If that's your goal and you're deciding whether or not you're a good parent based on 100% compliance, oh my goodness, right? Like that's really not very realistic in terms of expectations. So I'm not saying that we can't work on it, and I'm not saying that we can't acknowledge improvements in targeted ways. And that is one way also to really kind of keep a parent in the game is to, they'll come into my office and they'll say, really struggling with this or that. And I'll say, yeah, and also we're toilet trained. Like that's why you came in to start, remember? Or like, and remember, like, morning routine is going a lot better. And they'll say, I know, but nighttime. And I'll say, yes, absolutely. It's definitely there for us to work on. We have to make sure that we're giving ourselves some credit though, and giving some attention and focus to the hard work and the efforts that have paid off previously.
I love that. So when it comes to media and technology and just like um we can expect that there's going to be some new stuff that we have to figure out. Like we can expect that the problems and the challenges are not going away, right? So we just like you said, well, we've got morning routine, but bedtime is still a problem. Well, we've got screen time down, we've got transitions and tablet stuff, like we can transition a little bit better now, but we don't even know what the future challenges are going to be. What advice would you give to parents about kind of being open, I don't know, or keeping our sanity kind of as we know that there are more changes coming and that we're not going to have it all figured out and what would you say for us?
There's a few things that I help parents, a few mantras I would say that I have for parents related to these types of topics, right? The first and foremost is the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And if you figured it out in the past, probably you'll figure it out in the future as well. So we want to be careful not to borrow that worry yet because we don't know what's coming and we don't know what's going to happen. And so oftentimes when we borrow worry, we're borrowing kind of the worst case scenario rather than considering the best case scenario. And so we want to be really mindful about kind of like what type of thoughts we're welcoming into our mindset and whether or not that's going to be useful and helpful for us on the day-to-day basis or in the current time and present. Like you said, managing our expectations from the start, knowing it's going to be difficult, that obviously is something we need to kind of keep in mind. We want to make sure though, kind of going back to things we said in the very beginning, that we're having open, honest conversations with our kids about media and technology from the very beginning. So if there comes a time where we can't stay 3 steps ahead of our kids, and let's be honest, there's going to come a time where we can't stay 3 steps ahead of them on social media or other areas. Hopefully, we've established a relationship and a conversation and a systematic way to communicate with our kids about these things where they can bring us in on it. They can share with us a little bit more. They can be the teachers a little bit in some way. We don't want to let them guide completely, but we want to make sure that like they don't go underground with it. It's not a taboo topic. It's something that they do feel comfortable talking about as it relates to urges or, making good decisions online or, social media hygiene and health and things like that. So the more you've created that proactively with your child, the higher likelihood that you're going to be able to continue to maintain a positive relationship or a positive way of helping them to make decisions about these types of topics.
So I want to close this out and just ask for some recommendations for activities to help foster a growth mindset, a can-do attitude for grown-ups, but also little ones. Can we get them involved in that as well?
Yeah, I mean, with really little kids, especially like that 0 to 2 year range, it's no surprise that I'm going to say praise and encourage, but praise and encourage the small steps, right? So you really do want to kind of make sure that you're praising not the final product, but actually their persistence in getting to the final product. So I love the way you were kept with it. I love the way you didn't get discouraged, or great job building that back up after it fell down the first time. We can build it even higher together. Or I love how you asked for help, or that type of thing, right? I love how you stayed calm when it came to those kinds of things. Um, Similarly, with a 3 to 5 year old who's going to have a lot of emerging skill sets, really, again, giving them credit. And not just, I love how you used the big slide or how you were brave about the big slide. I like how you took the first couple steps. We can take a couple more tomorrow, right? So we want to kind of catch the scaffolding that's occurring, catch the mini celebrations and make a big deal out of them so they know that you want to be the type of parent that doesn't just put an A up on a fridge. You're the type of parent that if your kid studied really hard and got a C, but they worked really hard for that C, you put the C up on the fridge, right? Like, which is hard for parents to do sometimes or to acknowledge, because that might not be the way they were raised or the way that they're programmed to think about success. Which again goes to kind of the grown-up recommendations, which is to be intentional about not just that growth mindset with your kids, but with yourself overall, right? Kids are paying attention, like we talked about, not just to what we say, but to what we do. And if you're hard on yourself every day, or your anecdotes always kind of include you needing to be perfect or have the best, or be, if you're asking questions like, well, who came in first in the race versus did you beat your score from the previous time, right? Like that will make a big difference. So I think really again just being mindful, intentional about it and giving yourself a break. It's a WIP, it's a work in progress, right? It doesn't all have to happen in one day or in one week. It's really something that we're trying to build and grow across time.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Stephanie. It's been so fun to talk with you, and I just feel like it was just a treat to pick your brain and get to know your thoughts. And of course, there's so much more that we could talk about, but I think you've given us so much to start with, and some really practical strategies that we can start implementing, start trying, and give it some time. I want to just give you an opportunity to share anything else on any of the topics we've covered today. Any other information or stories or encouragement you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I feel really happy and privileged to be able to be a part of this project. And I think that, the questions and the topics that you're raising are hitting the nail on the head and are really the types of things that parents do want to be considering as it relates to healthy habits, not just with, digital tech, but just kind of on a daily basis with their kids. So I'm really honored to be a part of this today. And I would say, like I said, be kind to each other, parents, and it's a WIP, it's a work in progress. So really consider that these changes take time, and even small changes can lead to big celebrations, big changes, and a lot of really great growth for your child.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.